Ansible ad hoc runs. So you can run Ansible modules in an ad hoc manner without a playbook. You can just quickly run an Ansible module just like this, just a quick one-line command. And these are useful because you can operate across a huge number of hosts, basically everything in your inventory or whatever you want to operate on, all with one quick command. So they're great for running, running something across a ton of stuff in parallel. So right here, you're going to notice we have all. We've specified all right here, so that's going to be all hosts. You can specify whatever host you want or whatever group you want, so long as it's in your inventory. But all just refers to all hosts, and -m is for module, and we're using the ping module. So this is the simplest example you can have, and I'm just going to run this, and this will ping all the hosts in my inventory. You can ignore this this warning. This is not important. That's just I linked to Python on one of my hosts. No big deal. So you see here the output shows success across all the hosts. So we have hosts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 hosts. It pinged all of them, and we see it was successful across all of them. Now I'm going to jump over to this tab right here, and I'm going to ping from here just because it's zoomed out a little bit. There you can see more of the output all at once, and yeah, this is basically what the output from an ad hoc command looks like. I'm going to jump back over here because it's zoomed in more. It's easier to see what I'm actually typing. Now, a command module, it's used by default if, so the command module is what's going to be used by default if you don't specify module. So if I don't do a -m and specify the ping module, by default it's going to use the command module, allowing you to run an ad hoc command across whatever host you're specifying. So when you do that, so let's say if I remove the -m, I'm not specifying a module now. I'm just going to, this will do the command module by default, but I have to provide some parameters to the command module. So I'm going to do a -a for arguments. Now these are the arguments I'm going to pass to the command module. So I'm going to pass uname -a, and that's the command that's going to get run. So this will run this command across all these hosts, right? So let's give it a run. And there we go. It's run that command across all these hosts. Now I've zoomed in so you can actually read the text on the video a little bit more easily, but that makes it harder to, everything isn't displayed on neat little lines. But you can see yeah, host 1, host 4, it basically ran the uname command across all of them, and it's showing, Linux, the host name, this is an AWS host, it's running Ubuntu, and so on and so forth, right? So you can see the output from the uname command, or the output from the command that we typed right there. Let's just show this right here. -a, uname -a. I'm just gonna, just so you can see, I'm gonna run it again real quick, and you see the output. It's a little bit neater here when it's zoomed out on this tab. Ignore this warning, of course. Let's just jump back here. Now, one thing I should mention is that I'm using SSH keys, so I don't need to prompt for a password, and I'm also using, now I didn't need to use sudo for this example, but when I am using sudo, I'm using passwordless sudo, so I don't need to prompt for a sudo password either. But I'm going to show you how you would prompt for those if you're not using, if you're not using SSH keys or sudo-less, or passwordless sudo. So let's say if I were running this, and I wanted to prompt for the password, you can do a -k, and this will prompt for an SSH password. I can type in whatever I want because it's not really going to use it because I have SSH keys in use. So no real need to prompt for the password, but if you didn't have SSH keys, you do a -k. It's going to prompt you for your password, enter your password if it's correct. You can type the password once and connect to all your hosts in your inventory, only typing the password once instead of having to type it every single time you SSH to each host. So now if you wanted to if you want to use sudo, you have to use you would specify a -b, and if you want to prompt for a sudo password, you do a capital K like this. So lowercase k is your SSH password, uppercase K is your sudo password, and B tells it to actually sudo, right? So you could do that. It will prompt you twice, type in a password. Now by default, the become password or your sudo password will default to your SSH password. So if you just hit enter, it's going to use that first password you typed. So if it's the same password, just type it once and hit enter the second time. If it's a different password, you can type it in here if you like. Now you can run that. Works just fine, even though I don't need sudo to run uname, but that's just showing you how you do it if you needed to. Now, there are cases where you do need sudo. So I'm going to show you a quick example of where you might actually need sudo. So if you were running a command like, for example, let's remove this real quick. And if we were going to run cat etc shadow, right? So we're going to cat our etc shadow file. Now, this requires root permissions. So if we just run this like this, it's going to fail across all those hosts. It failed, permission denied. Okay, makes sense. Now, since I'm using SSH keys and passwordless sudo, I can just do a -b to tell it to become, and that tells it to sudo, and it's sudoed on all my hosts. And this is what the shadow file looks like on those hosts. No actual password hashes in there for any of those users because I'm using SSH keys for everything. But in any case, yeah, so the -b tells it to sudo, and it successfully does that without prompting for a password. Now, again, if you need to prompt for a password, you're going to use a lowercase k and a capital K. So basically just like this. These can be in any order, but basically specify those, and you can SSH and sudo prompting for everything, just like you would need to. Any case, so that's how you would do that. Now, one thing I wanted to show you is the most common options that you're going to use. This is how you'd pass parameters. So I'm going to just open up VI just so I can type this in here real quick just to show you, just to have something to refer to while I'm talking. So here's one option, become. For short, it's a -b. We used that before. Now, ask pass, for short, it's a lowercase k. Ask become pass, it is an uppercase K. Become user. Now, if you want to be a different user, if you want to sudo to something other than root, by default it's root. If you want to become something other than root, you can maybe have a prod user or some application specific service account. You can specify that there. That's actually a common use case. So that's something worth being aware of. Now, become method. Maybe you don't have sudo configured. Maybe you prefer to use su. You can specify su here. And there are other alternate tools you could use instead of su or sudo to become root or to become another user. You can specify that here, but sudo is default, which is why we didn't have to specify a become method. Now, you can also, there's a check if you just want to check. I guess like a dry run, you can specify --check or a -C. Some other common options, if you want to connect as user, this is your SSH user, not your become user. You can use a -u and specify the username. You can use a -f and specify a number, and that is the F is for forks. This is how many parallel forks it will run, or how many hosts it will connect to in parallel. Now, those are some common options I wanted to show you. And yeah, so that's it for that. Besides that, I'm just going to show you some more examples. So I'm going to show you the setup module. So I'm going to jump over here because it's zoomed out more, and this is going to be a lot of output for this. But we're going to run across all our hosts. We're going to run the module Ansible built-in setup. This will just give you all your facts for all your hosts. And there you go. This is a ton of information, ton of different facts that it's gathered about each host, like your IP address, your OS family, package manager, boot image, tons of info about the hosts. You can refer to these in playbooks too if you like. So that's another useful thing. Now, some other examples you could do. So let's say if you wanted to, let's just jump back over to this tab. Now, Ansible, let's just say group 1, that's one of the groups in our inventory. And let's say if you want to reboot this, you use a -a. These are the parameters we're going to pass to the command module. And let's say you might say sbin reboot -b to become. Now, again, K and a capital K if you want to prompt for the password. I don't need to. I'm going to reboot all the hosts in group 1. Or I'm going to tell it to reboot. Connection closed. Since I'm rebooting, the connection to those hosts closed. So no big deal there. Now, what else should I show you? Let's say if I wanted to do this with web hosts. I think this is the actual group name. Now, one thing we could do is we can specify -f10, do 10 in parallel, even though I think I only have 3 hosts in there. You can specify user, user 1, that's your SSH user. And yeah, let's just to make this an elaborate example, do a K and then an uppercase K. And you could specify this. You type in a password, become password, and there you go. There's an example passing more parameters to hosts. And since it's rebooting them, the connection gets closed. Now, another thing we can do, if I have enough hosts up and running and they're not still busy rebooting, I'm going to show you some other examples. So you can do like Ansible group 1. I hope these are back up for me to, I haven't checked these manually yet. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they're all back up by now. So let's try executing this on group 1. And let's try running a module. We're going to specify the module, Ansible built-in copy, so the copy module. And you don't have to always specify Ansible built-in, you can just specify copy. In any case, we're going to pass it some arguments, and the arguments we're going to pass it are in this string right here, and we're going to pass the source, etc hosts, and the destination temp hosts. This is just an example just to show you how you would copy a file to multiple hosts. So let's run this and see how it goes. So we're copying a single file out to multiple different hosts. So we see 3 hosts, we see host 3 and host 2. So yeah, so 2 hosts. Host 2 and host 3 are, so I guess that's group 1. Group 1 is hosts 2 and 3. So to 2 hosts, and however many hosts are in the group, you can copy it to them. So this is useful if you're copying a single file out to like 100 different hosts and you don't want to do it one at a time. This is useful. You can just copy a single file out to a ton of different hosts. This specific file from here to here is not real useful, just an example, but you could do that with an actual useful file if you wanted to. Now, another thing I wanted to show you is, let's run this on web servers so you can make sure a file exists. So the file module, let's paste this right in here. Now, Ansible web servers, we're going to run it against all our web servers, everything in this group. Run the module file. So running the file module, parameters are destination. So this is the file we want to operate on. Basically, running the file module just makes sure the file exists and that the attributes you specify are there. So it's going to make sure it exists. If it doesn't exist, it's going to create it. And the mode, it's going to set the permissions to 600. It's going to set the owner to user 1 and the group to user 1. And I believe I should probably specify -B for this because this is probably going to use yeah, this is going to require root permissions. I'm actually not sure if I have an opt data directory. So this may fail, but it may fail anyways, but let's give it a try. And it failed because opt data does not exist. Yeah, is absent, cannot continue. So let's run another example command. Another quick ad hoc command here. Paste this in, Ansible web servers. We're still using the file module, but now the destination is opt data. We're going to set these permissions. We're going to set the owner to user 1, the group to user 1, and the state is directory. Notice this is a little bit different. The state is going to be a directory. So we're basically creating a directory, opt data. Now, really, we should probably be specifying a -B for this, again, because we need root permissions for this. So let's see if this works. There we go. We see across all the hosts that we specified. So 3 different hosts because it's in the web servers group. Now across all 3 of those hosts, we were successfully able to create the opt data directory. And notice it specifies changed. So for each of these, it says changed, changed, changed because it had to create that directory on each of those. Now if we were to run this again, it's going to say success, but it doesn't say changed on any of those because the directory is already there. So if the directory is already there, it's not going to create it again. So now let's go back and see if we can run that other playbook that we ran previously, the one to create this text file, right? Let's see if this works now. I'm going to create this text file and still, yeah, still no good. All right, so looks like the issue we're having here is that if the file doesn't exist and you're not specifying, to create a directory, yeah, it will not create the file if it doesn't exist. If it did exist, it would make sure that the owner and the group and the permissions are all set as specified, but it doesn't create it unless you specify the state. You can specify the state equal. You can specify state equals touch. So state equals touch. Now let's see if this works. There we go. Created the file, and that's it. That was our last example. That's everything you really should know about Ansible ad hoc runs, just running ad hoc commands on Ansible. The most common thing is you can use ping to verify that you can actually reach all your hosts, and you're going to use your command module just to quick run commands across a bunch of hosts. It's just a quick thing, just speed things up so you're not manually, accessing hosts one at a time. But for anything really elaborate, you're going to be using playbooks for that. But yeah, that's about everything I wanted to cover with ad hoc runs. Remember, check the link in the description for commands and examples. Hopefully this was useful. Now, this video is part of a series, so make sure you check out the other videos in this playlist if you want to learn everything. We also put out a ton of other great tech-related content, including Linux and Windows stuff, hardware, software, coding, electronics, Raspberry Pi stuff, robots, 3D printing, networking, and a ton of other stuff. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. It'll make your feed that much more interesting. Also, make sure you hit the bell icon so you actually get a notification when new videos come out. And that's it for today. So, as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on that next video.